David,
Yes.
have you ever noticed that the way we use our phones is ironic?
Phones are for connection, but we look at them more than we look at each other. That's ironic, Griffin.
It's like rain on your wedding day. Listen, that's ironic. So US Cellular created Us Mode to help us reconnect, you and I.
That's right.
A phone company wanting people to use their phones less? Ironic.
A phone company wanting people to use their phones less? Ironic. But let's find us again with Us Mode from US Cellular. Visit uscellular.com/built-for-us to get started.
What are the other things that are ironic?
Hello and welcome back to the show. I am Patrick, here as always with Ben. Welcome, my friend. How are you, dude?
Doing good. Doing good, man.
Good to see you. Summertime is here.
Good.
We just chatted. Your kids are not yet on summer vacation, but mine are, which means every one of my routines has now been thrown out the door.
We have to talk about the reason that we did not record. People don't know our secrets. Last time we got together, was it last? Oh no, it was 2 times.
The one before, yeah.
We started recording and we were about maybe
4 minutes. Exactly 4 minutes.
I was gonna say 8. Okay, 4 minutes into an episode, and Patrick, like, it seems all of a sudden is like massively distracted. I'm talking. Yep. I'm still talking. But I can tell he mutes, so distracted. And finally, he's like, I gotta stop you. I kid you not. My cat is stuck up in a tree.
Yes. Yeah.
Long story short, it took you how long? 4 hours?
About 3.5 hours. Yeah, I'll give the very short version. So my kids know. My youngest is 5. He knows now, like, when I'm recording, not to come in. That wasn't always the case, but he gets it now. And so he kind of like did his little knock on the door, and I kind of ignored him, but then he opened the door, and he told me that Charlie, our cat, is stuck in a tree. So we paused for a second.
Such a good
and I
name
went
for
out
a
there.
cat, Charlie.
And we found him in the tree, and he was about what turned out to be about 40 feet up in the tree. And the funniest thing, 2 funny things, and then we'll move on from that, which is I have no idea how tall 40 feet is until I put up first a 20-foot ladder, and then I put up a 26-foot ladder, and then you realize those aren't even close to 40 feet. So that was the first thing we did, is put up some ladders, and then neither of the ladders we had access to were even close. So we asked a neighbor called a friend.
Duct taped the ladders together.
No, but hold on. But I did try something that I wish would have worked, because it would have been a much better story for this here, which is, so between getting the 25-foot ladder, and we got a friend of a friend came over with a 40-foot ladder, and he eventually saved Charlie from the tree. But in between there, what I did was I tried to lift the 25 or 27-foot ladder over my head in a pressing fashion, in the hopes it would get close enough to the cat that the cat would be like, I guess I'll jump on the ladder and climb down. I wish it had worked, but the cat just looked at the ladder like, I don't know what you think you're doing with this thing, buddy. But that would have been such a good story of how CrossFit saved my cat, but it did not ultimately work.
What you had to do was climb up the first ladder with the second ladder, then press it above.
That would have been good. That would have been better. Okay, but anyways, Charlie's fine. And
4 hours to rescue a cat 40 feet up in a tree.
So what we were going to talk about, it's been a few minutes now, but we were in the midst of, and this is going to wrap it up, a 3-part series on key distractions that are keeping us from health, from happiness, and from hearts on fire. We've talked about health. We've talked about 3 distractions rather, that kept us from health. Talked about the lure of quick fixes, social and environmental influences, and obsession with outcomes. After that, we talked about key distractions keeping us from happiness. We talked about the 4 idols, internal psychological traps like judgment and expectation, and then finally surrendering to other people's priorities. And today we're going to talk about key distractions that are keeping us from living with our hearts on fire. We're going to talk about fear of uncertainty and risk aversion, self-doubt and limiting narratives, and finally busyness, numbing, and comfort seeking. So when we say distractions, what we're talking about are things that can be considered a thief of our time, energy, attention, and money, things that substitute busyness, anxiety, or superficiality for the deeper work of cultivating health, happiness, and living with our hearts on fire. So if you haven't dipped into the first 2 episodes, highly recommend it. As we get into this one, Ben, this concept of hearts on fire is one we've mentioned before. We've certainly mentioned it a lot. I don't know that we've ever really defined it for ourselves or for others. So I kind of wanted to start there. Is when we say hearts on fire, when you think about living with your heart on fire, what comes to mind? What do you conjure up?
It's really living it in accordance or in harmony, alignment with your vision and values. It is the things that light you up. It is your purpose. It is your passion. And what most of fear, anxiety, depression, stress is rooted in is this gap that we are living in. So it is one of the sayings, like, working really hard for something you don't care about is hell, right? That's a terrible existence. That's like the most extreme example of that would be something like slavery, right? That's a terrible, terrible existence, to be forced to work excruciatingly hard for something you ultimately don't care about at all. If you are working excruciatingly hard for something that you love and you are passionate about, that's amazing. People find the most fulfillment in that. So it's not a matter of the work, it's the meaning behind the work. And you call work your life. This is, are you living your life with purpose, passion, with your heart on fire? We want to make sure that we're spending our days, which are so limited, in meaningful ways. And we kind of separated these from health and happiness and hearts on fire, but they're all three sides of the same coin.
Yep.
Right? If you don't live with your heart on fire, your stress goes up. Well, we know stress is one of the massive things that erodes our health, and we went into a big kind of explanation of that in the other episode. So we really do want to make sure that we are living with our hearts on fire. Raval Navikant, who we've quoted a lot recently, his little catchy thing, which he does so well, is find what feels like play to you but looks like work to others. I love that advice because no one can beat you at being you. The idea behind this is find something that you enjoy. Now, I hear the other side of this all the time, which is these really high level CEOs, professors say that, they bring people into their classrooms and they have these conversations and they give them the worst advice, which is do what you're passionate about. They're like, that's terrible advice. What you should do is earn a lot of money and then you give the opportunity and the freedom to do your things. I just wholeheartedly disagree with that. You don't want to give up any of your time, in my opinion, to be doing things that you aren't passionate about. This doesn't mean don't earn your stripes. It doesn't mean don't work hard. It doesn't mean that every day is going to be bliss and amazing. There's going to be troubles. There's going to be bumps on the roads. There's going to be potentially catastrophe along the way. But let's let all those things be in the pursuit and in the process of things that we enjoy doing, not for the sake of an outcome that we really have no control over, and put the happiness on the other side of that outcome, when most cases we know happiness isn't there. Mm-hmm. Happiness is found in the process. So I think it's crucial for us to be able to make sure that we are living with our hearts on fire, yet we know that there's a number of distractions that keep us from doing that.
Yeah, before we get into it, how much of Hearts on Fire, this idea, is work related versus just like, how much do we want to think about this holistically versus, we've talked about the amount of time we spend at work means that work needs to be part of this calculus we make in terms of trying to chase what truly matters, right? We can't ignore that. But how much of Hearts on Fire do you think of or how much of work do you think when you think about Hearts on Fire? Is it relegated to that, or is it broader than that?
It's not relegated, but I think it's disproportionately associated with work. Mm-hmm. If we sleep for 8 hours, you work for 8 hours, and you're awake for 8 hours, work is a really meaningful part of our lives. We can't just kind of like put it on the shelf and just say, well, there's the work portion. I'll take care of all of the rest out there. This is a third of our lives is essentially work. So this is the one that's disproportionately associated with work. Is it matter elsewhere? Yes, right? You don't want to be spending your time doing hobbies or other pursuits that you really are not aligned with. But this really is about the work discussion.
Yeah, cool. Okay, let's think about that as we go through these three key distractions. The first one, fear of uncertainty and risk aversion. One of the most powerful distractions from living a life of purpose is the tendency to avoid uncertainty and discomfort. The desire for safety, predictability, and the familiar can keep you stuck in routines that feel secure but uninspiring. This fear often manifests as hesitation to make bold moves, reluctance to leave comfort zones, or a habit of talking yourself out of pursuing what truly excites you. Living with your heart on fire requires embracing the unknown and being willing to risk failure or discomfort in the pursuit of something meaningful.
Right. So myself, when I got out of school, I got a job in corporate America doing finance, banking, foreign exchange, derivatives, and that stuff. So secure, with one of the biggest, most secure companies in the world. There was the corporate ladder. I knew what next year looked like. I knew what 5 years down the road looked like. I knew what 10 years down the road looked like. I knew that I was going to be getting a paycheck all the time. I knew what that was going to be. Mm-hmm. Everything was set. There was very little uncertainty. There's also very little fulfillment or happiness along the way. I left that world and took the risk and jumped into the sea of uncertainty to become an entrepreneur. But that's what Hearts on Fire is about. It's about taking those leaps, and it's really scary and it's really hard. The other thing we kind of know is like you're kind of trading certain levels of uncertainty, right? It's like the uncertainty of an entrepreneur is, or trading certain freedoms, right? There's different levels of this. Freedoms as an entrepreneur, I have this freedom of work schedule, doing what I want to do, making my own decisions, working with the people that I choose to work with. But that comes with huge levels of other levels of uncertainty, risks, where the flip side is just like this, you don't have it all. You're never going to have it all.
Yep.
So one of the realizations is to this realization that there is always going to be uncertainty. Like it's always there. And people kind of feel like, well, once I get over that hump, once I make 100K, once I make a 250K, once I make partner, once I get my degree, and they're hoping that when I get to the other side of that level of uncertainty will pass.
Yep.
I can say from achieving a whole bunch of these milestones along the way that it doesn't. Even when you have a really nice nest egg and you feel more financially secure, you're like, I hope I don't lose it. It's like it just the uncertainty stays and it just wears a different mask. And maybe just a point on like uncertainty is crazy. Like there's a study that was done in Nature Neuroscience in 2016 that showed uncertainty triggers more stress than predictable pain. The subjects reported higher anxiety when they might receive an electric shock than when they knew they would receive an electric shock. That's like the other example that has kind of been used is people would rather wait 10 minutes for a train or a bus knowing it's 10 minutes. Like think about you get out of the airport and you're waiting for Logan Express.
Yep.
It's the whole Uber thing. They tell you it's going to be 9 minutes before the driver gets to you. And they're taking away that level of uncertainty. They figured this out. They've hacked it. Whereas taxis, even if it might only take 90 seconds to hail a cab, you're like, how long is this? I don't know.
Yep.
You would rather wait 9 minutes knowing it's 9 minutes than 90 seconds not knowing. We as human beings will do a lot to avoid uncertainty. So it's one of those things that we have to override. Yeah. And it's really a lot of it, risk aversion. A lot of it just comes down to accepting certain levels of fear.
I love your point about the certainty of one path doesn't eliminate uncertainty. It just creates or opens the possibility of a different kind of uncertainty. And so even the certain path, the Ben that didn't take a left when everybody thought he was going to go straight, when stayed at the bank, etc., that version who knew within 2 years I was going to get promoted to X and I would make X and then I'd be able to do Y, didn't eliminate the uncertainty that we're so scared of. Just like the uncertainty of taking the path you did doesn't eliminate the uncertainty or the certainty of what's to come next. There is no certainty without uncertainty. It's the same thing. And so if you're aiming for certainty and you're making decisions based on certainty, you're just not looking at what the uncertainty is on the other side of that certainty.
So many certainties in that.
So many certainties. But that's kind of the point, which is we need to stop thinking about certainty at all, because it's always there. We will never get rid of it. It's like problems, right? It's like you can't solve a problem and then not have any more problems. You can't make decisions and eventually the uncertainty will disappear. That's not how certainty works. It's like breathing. It's like oxygen. It's always going to be there. And so we need to remove it from our decision set, because if we make decisions based on certainty, we're just fooling ourselves. We're just lying to ourselves. We are just intentionally or not looking at the uncertainty that certainty will bring.
Heather asked me a question a while back, which was somewhere along the lines of 1 to 10, how happy are you with your life?
Mm-hmm.
Great. I mean, that's an awesome question. And my gut response was 7, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I paused, as I often do, and people around me are like, we had these athletes in town training last week.
Yeah.
And they're like that. I was like, I would pause before answering questions, and they were kind of like, I was meeting them for the first time. It was kind of like weird. I was like, oh gosh, get it, guys. When you ask me questions, I came with this thing with my wife, because it's like I have to say standby processing, because I'm listening to you. I'm just processing this thing. Yep. So anyway, she asked me that question. I was standby processing. I didn't answer 7 because I wanted to run it through my head. And the thing that came up to me was the Phil Stutz stuff. It was like, why did I say 7? And the reason I said 7 was because I wanted less pain, work, and uncertainty.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 things that are embedded in human existence, right? Like they're not going away. But that's when right away I was like, well, I would like it if I didn't have to work as much, if I had more freedom. I'd like it if I had more, I was higher up the wealth game, so I would have more certainty. That's the reason I wanted that, was right away, is because if I have that, then I just feel like, and then the last one was work, pain, uncertainty, whatever. And right away I went like, well, wait a minute, like I'm farther along than in terms of the uncertainty thing than I ever thought I would be. Like I never thought I would reach where I am now. So what am I waiting for to like, and I went, wait a minute, like if you take those things off the table, like the other saying is, which Chris Williamson said, is how many goals have you already achieved that you said would make you happy? You kind of run that through. It's like, okay, my life right now actually is probably like a 9.5, because the uncertainty is not going to go away. I said it would go away when, but I've already gotten that. And I told myself a new story that it'll go away when, and I'm just formulating these stories. They're not going away. So you go like, okay, this is just one of those things that's built into our DNA. Yep. We just kind of have to live with it no matter where I get to. I was hanging out with some other friends. He's been wildly successful. Retired at age 36, made tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars. And you would think that he'd be like, just want to like explore freedoms. And the idea was, no, I want to get to he's so driven to get to the next level, to get to next. And us, we go, that's crazy. What are you talking about? You want to get to next? Like, when is it the thing? And it's the same thing we see with these athletes. Like, okay, you're making $100 million a year. What does it matter if you make 130 or 180? And to them, it's all about wealth and status games. That's built into us.
Yep.
And that's where we go like, no, because when I get there, and we kind of like, So we're kind of like crossing paths a little bit here, but it is because of the fear of uncertainty that keeps us from living with our hearts on fire, because we go, no, I have to know that I can go and do that thing instead of taking the risk, right? And people don't take risks, and when they do it, they're not kind of raising their hand and going, they're not connecting the dots to like, the reason I'm not taking the risk is because I fear uncertainty.
Yep.
What they'll say is things like, yeah, I should write that book. Yeah, I should start that business. Yeah, we should move to Hawaii. Yes, we should go take that adventure. We should homeschool the kids, said no one ever. But what they'll say instead of, it's like, but I can't stand that level of uncertainty. I'm not willing to take that risk. What they'll say instead is, it's not the right time.
Mm-hmm.
Or we need more planning. We need to think about that. I'll do that when. And
when really what they're saying is, I need to be more certain that it will
exactly right.
that it will work.
No, what they're actually saying is, I'm afraid.
Mm-hmm.
What they're saying is, I'm afraid of doing that thing that I say would light me up inside. That thing I say would set my heart on fire. That thing I say is so aligned with my moving to Montana and becoming a fly fishing guide, right? That thing I say is that thing that I want to actually do more than anything else. The reason I'm not doing that is because I'm afraid.
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid of the risk and the uncertainty associated with it. That's the distraction.
Yep.
That is the thing that's keeping us from living with our hearts on fire. And I get it. Like, I'm by the way, it's like, I'm not condemning anyone.
No.
We all have it. That's the whole thing, is we have to recognize that these distractions are real, but unless we name them for what they actually are, which is you're afraid. And once you go like, you're afraid, not I need more planning, I need to think about it more, maybe someday, when this happens, it's not the right time. When you go, those are all the language of those that are afraid.
Yep.
It's okay. Like, that's okay. Now we go like, okay, I'm just afraid to do this. Then you can work with that because we put it on the table. When it's like you haven't said it, it's under the table, and you think you're having another discussion. You think it is when you line this up. You think it is when you cross that other threshold. You think it is when you create enough planning.
You think it's a logical problem to solve.
Correct. Exactly.
Yep.
Yes.
We're brought to you by MASA Chips, the health-conscious snack revolutionizing how we think about chips by using 100% grass-fed beef tallow instead of seed oils. Go to masachips.com. That's MASA chips.com/excellence. Use the code excellence. Get yourself 25% off your first order. Did you know that all chips used to be cooked in tallow until the 1990s when corporations switched to cheap processed seed oils? Today, these seed oils make up 20% of the average American's daily calories and are linked to serious metabolic health issues and inflammation. MASA is changing the game with their delicious tortilla chips made from just 3 ingredients: organic nixtamalized corn, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. Since the beef tallow makes these chips more satiating, you won't find yourself mindlessly overeating, supporting your training, your nutrition, your health, like we talk about here on the show all the time. MASA has already won over tens of thousands of customers and health experts alike. So check them out at masachips.com/excellence. That's MASA chips.com/excellence. Make sure you use the code excellence to get 25% off your first order. We're sponsored this week by More Hair Naturally, who's giving one lucky listener the chance to transform their confidence with a free starter kit. Click the link in the show notes to this episode for your chance to win a complete More Hair Naturally starter kit. When we talk about our awareness, intention, and action framework, sometimes we need to acknowledge what's holding us back from showing up as our best selves. For many folks, hair loss is that hidden barrier to confidence. That's why More Hair Naturally has created a powerful, all-natural system that's helping people worldwide reclaim their presence and confidence. Their science-backed approach uses stem cells, amino acids, and natural compounds to support real hair growth. No drugs or side effects or lifetime commitments required. This is your opportunity to try their complete system absolutely free, but the giveaway only runs for a week. So take some action now. Click the link in our show notes to enter for your chance to win a free More Hair Naturally Starter Kit. Remember, excellence is about making moves when opportunities present themselves. So tap the link in the show notes and get started. We've talked about this sort of 3-step process that needs to happen to chase what truly matters. So again, another phrase that we use all the time. And the first thing, but I think it's exactly the same 3-step process here, which is the first thing is we need to develop the awareness of what sets our heart on fire. We need to understand that. We need to make sure that it's not what our parents said, what culture said, what's popular, whatever else it might be. It is in fact what sets our heart on fire. So that's the first thing, is the awareness piece. And then the second piece is what you're getting at here, which is then we have to have the bravery enough to actually begin to chase it. And that's really, really, really hard for all the reasons we just laid out, right? And then the third part is we need to have the persistence to see it through. And each one of those steps is hard for all their own separate special reasons. But that's really what's necessary to really all the things we talk about, whether it's building health or a life of happiness or a life of hearts on fire. It's like, what is it that we're trying to get ourselves towards? We have to create the counter programming in our own minds to allow ourselves to do the third step, which is stick with it when it gets hard, because it's always going to get hard.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, most people, I don't think this is necessarily our audience, but most people don't do the first step, right? They're just pre-programmed that
Absolutely.
I'm going to be a doctor, got to make, $500,000 and get the white picket fence. And they don't go truly, what's the thing that's going to set me on fire,
Yeah.
And then it's a matter of, Brené Brown has a quote that you can be safe or you can be brave.
I love that.
But you can't be both. Being brave is risky, right? But being brave there's so much payoff to that. We are programmed to be in the box. We are programmed to be cattle. We are programmed to be ants marching. Just go do the thing, from the school system all the way on up. And I get it, because what your parents are, they're just hedging their bets.
They're going back to certainty.
They're going back to certainty. If you become a doctor or a lawyer, I know that you're not going to end up a vagabond. I know you're not going to end up on the streets, right? Whereas if you try to be a musician, oh God, if you go and, become a surfing instructor, oh no. If you go and, lead people on hikes in the Sahara Desert, oh no, they're just trying to play it safe. But you can be safe, or you can be, so another way is you can take the risks and live with your heart on fire, or you can be distracted and be in a box.
Do people take hikes in the Sahara? I kind of feel like if my kids
don't wreck
did
my
that.
stories. Everyone listening was like, yeah. But that's why it's
one.
risky.
It is
risky.
very risky, actually.
Yeah, you got to bring a camel. Yeah.
Next one. Self-doubt.
That metaphor went somewhere else. I was gonna do it as a safari.
I liked it. I was
gonna do
curious if you-
safari, and then I was like, no, that's not enough. Let's go Sahara. And in mid-S word, I changed it.
Second key distraction, self-doubt and limiting narratives. Internal barriers such as persistent self-doubt, imposter syndrome, or the belief that your dreams are unrealistic can sap your conviction and keep you from pursuing your calling. These distractions often sound like, who am I to do this? Or that's not for people like me. This self-judgment and these limiting beliefs are major obstacles to becoming your best self and living with intention. The first thing that pops in my head here, I just want to say it because I don't know if I stole it from somewhere, so if I did, sorry. But this idea of limiting narratives, I wrote down expansive narratives. We need to tell ourselves expansive narratives.
Love that.
And again, I don't know if I stole it from somebody, but if not, cool. But I think that's so powerful, this idea of we're telling ourselves stories anyways. We've talked about this 100 times. Everything from the victim, the pessimist, the optimist, and even the warrior. We're all just telling stories here. The realist is the only one not telling stories. The warrior is telling expansive stories. Everybody else is telling limiting stories, right? So I just love that idea of can we shift the stories we're telling ourselves to not make us smaller, but to make us bigger?
The storytelling thing, You know what the most powerful stories that we're telling ourselves are? Is the ones that we don't realize we're telling ourselves.
Oh yeah.
That's
Hidden
the
stories.
story we got to be. It's kind of what you were saying. It's the awareness, right?
Yep.
Like, I don't even realize that this is the story I'm telling myself.
Yep.
And this is where we work so hard on identifying triggers, because triggers are kind of the speed bump in the smooth road. You go, whoa, what was that?
Yep.
Like,
There's the
that,
tap on the shoulder from Arthur Brooke.
exactly, the
Yeah.
tap on the shoulder. I love that. So that's where we want to go. Like, okay, if a trigger happens, there's a narrative there. There's a story I'm telling myself. Can I explore that? And can I go, whoa, that's really self-limiting. That's not an expansive story at all. And I think that nothing is binary like that, right? It's not like it's limiting or it's expanding. There's a lot of gray in between there. But if we kind of like at least operate with that, is, you know, and that's why I love the phases of mindset, the storytelling. Like, you kind of label these stories we're telling ourselves. Is that if it's limiting, it's victim or pessimist, right? If it's optimistic, at least it's somewhat on the positive. It's at least not negative. But right, the realist and the warrior mindset are the ones that are telling the expansive, the accepting, the in control. I have autonomy. I am not a tree. If I don't like where I am, I can move. I am not a leaf in the wind just being blown around by external circumstances. I have agency in my life. I can make these changes. My life is under my control. You know, the way we live now in this modern era, like the opportunities are endless, literally infinite for what you want to do. You could go work and live anywhere on the planet. You could do anything you want to do. Like, what is this self-narrative that we are telling ourselves? Because that is the distraction. That is the number one thing. If we don't overcome that, first step of it, as you said, is become aware of it. What is the stories we don't even realize we're telling ourselves? Identify, kind of pinpoint, go, whoa, highlight, underline that, challenge it, try to bring different perspectives to it. Go, if I was to think the opposite, shout out to opposite George on Seinfeld. If I was to just like, just for fun, go, what would the opposite of this mindset look like? Can I just like live in that for a while? No, not days, seconds. Just kind of go like, what is the opposite of this self-defeating thought? Well, it's that. You don't have to believe it, but just put something else in there. Just like if you drop enough droplets into something over time, it changes the construction of what it originally was. So that's all we're trying to do, is kind of do a drop here, a drip there, a drop here, a drip there, into a new narrative that we can kind of start telling ourselves. I think that this is where people get caught up a little bit, is you know, whether it's the pessimist or the victim mindset, it kind of wears this mask of humility, right? Like, oh, it's not like I'm just going to.
Of selflessness, is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah. Like, so, yeah, like, yes, like it's not me. Like, it's just out there. Like, I'm not going to, who am I to do this? It's a weird kind of like thing, but we have to realize that level of that mask of humility, it's not the humility the way we define it, right? The way we define humility is growth mindset, which is, I don't have all the answers. I am not born this way. I can change. I can mold. It's not about me. It's about the team. I want feedback. I don't think I have this whole thing figured out. It's kind of, but humility takes this other type of thing, which is like, well, I'm just not as good, right? I'm never going to kind of be that. I don't have control over that. It's weird, but that is actually a separate form of self-centeredness. You're putting it kind of like, you're creating this narrative about you again. It's again about you, which is really, it's a really, you know, if we want to level up and we want to level up humanity, we kind of owe it. It's the opposite of self-centeredness. You owe it to everyone else to be able to bring your best self forward. We're never going to be it all the time. We are all human. We all have faults. We are all imperfect beings. But the objective that we should be doing is to live a great life, a noble, great, well-lived life full of purpose, poise, passion, balance, hearts on fire. And if you are kind of going, well, no, not me, like, I don't know. No, it's that's the limiting narrative that is distracting us from being able to do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
We should be centering on, instead of ourselves, no, not me, not this, not on the mission, on the work, on the service, on the contribution. This is what I mean by, like, that level of humility is self-serving.
Yeah.
It's, again, it's turning it all back in on to you in a way that is not furthering anything.
Yeah. It reminds me, I'm not going to get the quote right, but it's from the musician Neil Young.
Oh, I love it.
I came across it, I don't know, sometime. He said, I think it's holding back is so close to stealing, or something like that.
Ooh.
The idea of, like, not giving all of yourself, not pursuing what really matters to you, is to the rest of us stealing, because you're not giving us everything you could give us. You're being, and I love that, that's sort of the perspective shift. Like, you're actually being selfish in a way that you don't think, you're not labeling it as selfish, but it's selfish to us because we don't get all of you. We don't get the version of you with your heart on fire and everything that you could do if your heart was on fire. You're stealing from us the opportunity to see that, to interact with that, to get the benefits of that.
That's how Tim Galloway in the Inner Game of Tennis redefines competitiveness.
Oh, I like that. Yep.
So the way he says it is, I owe it to my competitor to be my best.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not my best, I'm not pushing them to be their best. That's the way he defines competitiveness. Because if it's not about the wins, it's about the growth along the way. If you go, well, if it's about the growth along the way, then what does it even matter if you try at all if it's not about wins or losses? No, you have to try as hard as you can to win. That's the deal. Like, you want to put your best foot forward so that other people can be challenged as much as possible. And it goes right to the heart of, no heart, pun intended with this saying, but do not ask what the world needs. Ask what will set your heart on fire.
Yep.
Because what the world needs is more people with their heart on fire. And this is the essence of this whole thing.
Yep.
Like, it's not about trying to fill a void. It's not a product market fit.
Yep.
Do we need where's the best opportunity? Should I be a doctor or should I be a lawyer? It's like, no, it's neither. Where's the more opportunities? I'm going to become a computer coder because that's where the world is going. I'm going to become an AI engineer because that's where the world's. No, it's like, what's the thing that's going to make you feel so alive? People just want to be we all, to get woo-woo for a second, there's an energy force coming out of you.
Oh,
and everyone knows.
Anytime I talk about energy forces, woo woo.
Woo woo. When you walk into with people that you're close to,
yep,
you can without if your wife comes in without you even turning around, you can tell. Like, when we got on this call today, I could tell that you had really good energy and it lifted me up, right? Cool. It lifted me up. And what an awesome, if everyone had that, because they were doing what sets their heart on fire, not because they were trying to fill a product market fit in terms of us humans being the product. We're trying to fit ourselves into the economic marketplace, but we are instead trying to figure out just what is the thing that I could be most excited about producing,
yep, and
letting happen. Now, maybe this is the right time to kind of loop back a little bit to kind of like our concentric circles. When we talk about work and we talk about, it's not just, I'm so passionate about ant farming, so I'm going to go make ant farms, right? It's not, the idea is, yes, what are you passionate about? The next is, where is there an economic earning potential? I don't think there's much in ant farming. What am I good at? What am I talented at? And is in line with my vision and values. Like, can I do this work with great people?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the four things. And if what you're considering is those four things, like, go. That's your heart is going to be so on fire. Yes, you're going to have hard days. Yes, you're going to have struggle, challenges. But again, it's like, it's sometimes those are the most meaningful parts. If you're washing dishes and you have extra hard times on top of that, That's hard. That's really hard.
Yep. I want to hit on one idea before we move on to our third distraction. And it's because I of all the ones of health and of happiness, of this one is the one that I think somebody out there could point to us, you and I, Ben, and say, yeah, it's easy for you guys to say, live with your hearts on fire. And I want to say that out loud, but two, because I actually think that it's an interesting thing to think about, which is, I don't think I've ever in my life been made to feel like I am not worthy of pursuing the things that I wanted to pursue. My parents, teachers, whatever, and for any number of reasons, but mostly it's because I'm a tall white guy, right? Like, fine. And I think it's important to point out that all of us sort of exist on this spectrum of how easy it is to say, yeah, I'm gonna fix the stories in my head. I'm going to not fall victim to the belief that I'm not good enough, right? Like, we're all struggling with that to some degree, and some of us have it a little easier than others. And so I guess I bring all that up to say, like, have you ever been made to feel that whatever, like, you know, okay, Ben, you're going to leave the investment banking, you're going to become a personal trainer. Yeah, that's hard. And yeah, it's scary. And back to the idea of uncertainty, but I would be surprised if anybody in your life was like, Ben, that's you can't do that. You're not smart enough. You're not good enough. You're not going to be successful enough, whatever it might be. And so I do think it's just an interesting thing to think about, is that some of us make it past that stage quicker than others, and some people get stuck there. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on it.
Yeah, we are certainly lucky as a tall white guy and a medium height white guy.
Medium white guy.
But even more so than that, it's our upbringing. You were raised with, go do that thing. We support you completely, and we believe that you can be successful doing that. That's exactly what I was brought up with. No matter what I did, I had the full support. Go do that thing. Even when, you know, in hindsight, looking back, they were like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Totally. Yep.
And they told me
same
that.
Here. Yep.
But they never gave me an ounce of doubt. It was a full support that we think that's amazing. Go do that thing. That's all I ever felt that I got from there.
Yep.
What that does is it helps us with this category. What happened was we don't have that default programming running through our heads. So this is why we ended up doing things that set our hearts on fire. Like, you're an artist and I'm a coach.
Yep.
Like, you know, I'm an entrepreneur. Like, these are the things that I loved. If I could go do anything in the world, people ask me, like, if you weren't doing this, what would you do? It's a really hard question for me, because I would be doing this I would just be doing this in a different way.
Yep.
It would be the exact same thing. This is what I want to do more than anything else. If you were to retire, what would you do? I would keep working. I wouldn't retire. I would keep doing this because I love it. It doesn't mean, this is the big thing, is people like go there and they go, okay, but you have it easy because you're moderate and tall white guys. Yes. And that is, life is unlucky, but it also doesn't mean it's easy, right? It's no one's saying that any of this is going to be easy. In fact, it's way harder. It's harder. It is, I shouldn't say that. You have to choose your hard, right? So it is hard to be an entrepreneur. It is also hard to work on an hourly job, 9 to 5, where you have no control, no agency, no autonomy. That's hard in different ways. One is financially brutal.
Yep.
In terms of responsibility, brutal. In terms of the so-called uncertainty and stress, brutal. Where the other one, nope, you just go in and you do your thing. Punch the clock, make sure you do the enough to not get fired, and you're good. But it's brutal in other ways. You have to choose your hard. Life is hard. Life is going to be hard. Would you rather do the hard things that you feel in your heart make you feel like you come alive, or that you're just trying to get to 5 o'clock, you're just trying to get to the weekend, you're just trying to get to your 2 weeks of vacation? I choose the other road 100 times out of 100.
Yep.
And we, to call it out, the elephant in the room, are so blessed and lucky for a lot of the things that we had no control over. like where we grew up, who our parents were, the color of our skin. Like it made it a lot easier for us to do these things. It doesn't mean that any of this stuff changes though.
Yep.
Just there's different levels of hard.
Yep.
You know, the saying is if everyone threw their problems into a pile, I think we'd be really quick to pull ours back. And that goes for most people that are telling self-limiting narratives. They are not the victims they think that they are. There are true victims in the world. True victims. Most people with a victim mindset are not true victims.
We're sponsored this time around by Skims, creators of the most comfortable, stylish men's underwear that's getting rave reviews everywhere. Transform your dude's underwear drawer by visiting skims.com and remember to select podcast in the survey after your order and find our show in the drop-down. Let's talk about the perfect gift for the man in your life, because we all know most guys won't upgrade their underwear until someone does it for them. God, I wish that wasn't true, but it is. Skims has created something truly special with the men's collection, and as the official underwear partner of the NBA, they know a thing or two about what guys need. Their boxer briefs are designed with incredible attention to detail, no bunching, no riding, just pure comfort that lasts all day. The quality is exceptional, the fit is perfect, and trust me, he will thank you for this upgrade. Make his day by visiting skims.com, and don't forget to select podcast in the survey after your order to let them know that we sent you. We're brought to you by Momentous, the nutrition company that's setting the gold standard for science-backed supplements that support your physical and mental freedom. Visit livemomentous.com and use the code excellence for 35% off your first subscription to the Momentous 3, your foundation for lasting health. You know, when we talk about health as freedom on this show, we're talking about building a foundation that lets you chase what truly matters. That's exactly why we personally use the Momentous 3 every single day. They're high-quality protein, creatine, and omega-3s. Whey protein helps with muscle recovery and immune function. Their pharmaceutical-grade creatine supports both physical performance and cognitive function, and their pure omega-3s are sourced from low-mercury fish to support brain health. What I love most is their commitment to quality. Every product is NSF or Informed Sport certified with 0 artificial ingredients or fillers. Head to livemomentous.com. Use the code excellence for that 35% off your first subscription to the Momentous 3. Let's jump to our third of 3 distractions: busyness, numbing, and comfort seeking. It's easy to fill your days with busyness, distractions, or the pursuit of short-term comfort as a way to avoid the deeper, more challenging work of clarifying and pursuing your purpose. Whether it's endless scrolling, overwork, or indulging in easy pleasures, these habits can make life feel full but hollow. True passion and purpose require the courage to say no to numbing distractions and yes to the sometimes uncomfortable path of intentional living.
Okay, so there's like, these are kind of like, they're kind of two different ones smushed together. So there's busyness, right? Which is, I don't have enough time. And then there's this kind of like numbing and comfort seeking, which is, I'm just burnt out. I just want to I want the ice cream. I want Netflix. I want to scroll on my phone. I just want like this life of short-term pleasure for long-term pain. The first one, the busyness one. A lot of we have this a lot, which is like, you don't confuse busy with productive.
Yep.
You know, some of the most productive people in the world can, on the surface, look incredibly unbusy. You know, Greg McKeown from Essentialism has, if you don't prioritize your life, someone else will. So this, again, all of this is like the heart on fire. It requires a huge level of responsibility and agency. We have to do this thing. Yep. No one is going to pave by default. This is not the norm. This is the anti-path. This is the path left traveled. This is going to take a machete to clear away a little bit so you can actually see the path at all, because it's not there at first view. Because you're so busy, because so many things are encroaching on what you actually want to do. And it takes time, as we said, to create that level of awareness of what is the thing that's actually going to do this. So that's the busyness factor. The other one is like the numbing, the comfort seeking. And this gets into like the comfort crisis and all the stuff that we talk about all the time, is that we're so distracted by the comforts of modern day society. And, you know, it's so easy, though, the stats are everywhere about the phones, how distracting phones are. And we're, again, now the old white guys that control but here's the average American checks their phone. I can't believe this. And maybe I'm the anomaly on this side because I get to work and I don't check my phone at work all day.
Yeah.
I check my phone at the end of the day and try to answer all my stuff before I go home. Then I go home and I put my phone in a drawer and I don't check it. I try not to check it at all, but the reality is probably half of the days I check it one more time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm checking my phone probably half a dozen times a day. Do you want to take a guess at how this is done by a study done in 2022 by Azurion, Asurion?
Mm-hmm.
How many times the average American checks their phone a day?
I would, without any more context, I would guess somewhere in the range of 150.
344.
Okay. I was giving them way more credit.
Yes, right? Think about that. The average adult spends X number of hours on screens not related to work a day. Fill in the blank. What is it? The average adult spends
8
X.
or 7.
8. It's 6 to 7.
6 to 7.
Not related to work. That's wild.
Yep.
So what happens is 1 in 3 adults report being too busy to enjoy life. 6 to 7 hours a day on a screen. So you're awake for 16 hours. You go to work for 8 hours. We've done this before. We've broken down the day, right? You sleep for 8 hours, you work for 8 hours, you have 4 hours before, 4 hours after. So you have 4 hours before, 4 hours after. 6 to 7 hours are spent. Now, I'm sure people are scrolling at work and stuff like that. But checking their phones 344 times a day, 6 to 7 hours on screens. I don't have the time to enjoy life because I'm too busy.
Yeah.
This goes to the question, as people ask me a lot as a coach and a trainer that's helped people transform their bodies. When the question is, okay, I get it. Like we all need to train. We all need to eat better. We all need to sleep. What about the person that doesn't have the time to do those things? And I say, who are those people? And they say, well, I'm one. Mm-hmm. I'm one of those people. Or they say, my sister-in-law, right? Or she just can't get healthy because she's so busy. The first question I ask is, do you have an iPhone? If they say yes, I go to settings, go to battery, scroll down, change it to the last 7 days, and just tell me how much time you spent on social media. Do you do social media for your job? No, I don't. Okay. You spent 4 hours a day last week on social. So we're distracted. We think we don't have time. That is not the truth. We're just telling ourselves that story and we're distracted. And I get it because it's comfort seeking. It's numbing. And because we're not living with our hearts on fire, this is our medicine. This is our pacifier. Because we're so exhausted, we're stressed from that misalignment. Yep. That misalignment is brutal. And if we can get more aligned with our values, with our purpose, with the things that light us up, and we can start to behave in those ways, it all changes. Your feelings change because it's bidirectional, right? It goes identity, actions, behaviors, and feelings. So your identity influences your actions and your behaviors. Your identity, I have agency. I can control my life. I live with my heart on fire. I will take risks. I can live with uncertainty. I want to have a meaningful, purposeful, passionate life. I'm the type of person that ... That creates a certain set of actions. Those actions lead to fulfillment, happiness, joy, alignment. But it also works the other way too. If you feel misaligned, if you feel stressed, if you feel disillusioned, if you feel depressed, all of a sudden the actions you're going to take are scrolling, Netflix, ice cream, couch, short-temperedness. And then you go, I'm the type of person that doesn't have the time, it's bidirectional. We got to do both. We got to work from both ends of that candle.
Yeah. I think the other thing with the busyness part, I think busyness is in some ways an effort at comfort. And what I mean by that is I think when we trick ourselves into being really busy, and I see this with my kids' friends' parents a lot. I think on some level, one of the things we're doing is we're trying to push away the moments of silence where we have to listen to or hear the thoughts in our head. And I think it's a downward spiral, because the more you push away that voice, or the more you push away the spaces in our days in which that voice bubbles up and we can't ignore it because we're not so busy, right? Or scrolling, which does the same thing. The less time we spend with our thoughts, the less time we spend in our head, the scarier they are. And the harder it is the next time to sit with them and to listen to them and to figure out what they're trying to tell you, and to sit with the discomfort that oftentimes comes with them. And so the busyness and the numbing and the scrolling in aggregate is creating an environment where we are so scared of the silence that we do everything possible to not feel it. And then we are living a life where we don't know, where we have almost no awareness. We have no idea what we're feeling or why we're feeling it. We can't understand why I get triggered by this thing and that thing or that person. And I think that's where I think about busyness as being the opposite of living with your heart on fire, because, and it's back to a little bit of what we talked about earlier, which is like the awareness piece is so important, as is the bravery and as is the persistence. And if you never allow yourself the silence long enough to hear it, then you'll never understand why you do what you do, why you believe what you believe, why you tell yourself the stories you do, and give yourself the space to tell better stories or to understand or to change the behaviors.
It's so good. There's a great quote, which is, "You will never find peace in the place you go to avoid discomfort."
Yep.
Right? So that is what you're saying, is like, I don't want to be uncomfortable being bored. I don't want to be uncomfortable in my own head exploring thoughts. I don't even like working out. Like if you can work out without ear pods in, and you just like allow that moment to kind of like let your brain do the brain things. But like meditation is the obvious example of this, right?
Yep.
You will never find peace in the place you go to avoid discomfort. We have
Yeah.
to go to like, what are we, when we're trying to avoid, we're trying to pacify ourselves. And what we need to do is learn to cry ourselves to sleep. Instead of just kind of like, okay, binky time.
Yep.
Right? We just have to like sit in that a little bit for a little bit longer. And whether it doesn't need to be meditation or working. You don't have to go for an hour-long zone 2 run without headphones. You don't need to go do a CrossFit workout. You don't need to meditate. Like, can we start with just paying attention? Like, I think it's a really good, is like, you know, I was listening to a recent podcast with Brian Johnson, Heroic, and wrote the book Arete, which I read to my kids a lot. And I read it to my parts of it to the gym as well.
Yep.
And he was talking about shower thoughts. It is one of the very few places we have left that there is no distraction. Actually, since I've heard of it, I've taken a couple showers, and this is what I think. It's like you're putting yourself in this like solitary pod.
Yep.
You can't, unless you have little kids running through the bathroom and kind of like, and I went through that as well. But my suggestion would be like, don't turn the music on. And just kind of like when your brain starts to go, his saying is the thoughts that you think in the shower are what you care about the most.
Mm-hmm.
And whether there's truth to that or not, when you're in the shower, be aware that you're thinking. That is just called metacognition.
Yep.
The ability to think thoughts about your thoughts. It is not rumination. Rumination is a spiral that you don't allow yourself to pop out of with perspective. Metacognition is thinking thoughts about your thoughts with perspective, stepping away from them and going, oh, this is interesting that I'm thinking these thoughts, as opposed to my boss hates me. Why does my boss hate me? I can't believe he hates me. I hate my job and that coworker. I should quit. You know what? Like, that's rumination. Instead of going, why do I feel like my boss doesn't like me? And then popping up and thinking thoughts about that. Again, going back to that's place number one to start this idea of kind of surmise all the things, right? From the pre-programming messaging that we've been giving to the busyness to the comfort seeking. We have to think about things. We just have to kind of become aware of our thoughts. And the shower is such a cool place for that. I also think like long car rides without any sort of stimulus. I do like to listen to podcasts or a book up until the point where I go, that's interesting, and I pause.
Yep.
It's just like it's like a little kind of like someone's interviewing you almost, right? They're kind of going like, let's talk about this. Mm-hmm. And they're just kind of plopping something in, because sometimes you get in the car, if you don't have that lead in, it'll kind of just spin on, it kind of goes in the fragmented mind, right? And the fragmented mind is where we don't want to be spending as much time. That's what the mind will do. It's what it's supposed to. It's scanning. And what it's doing is it's scanning for problems. That's what the way our brain is set up. But if you get to focus, fragment, focus, flow. If you get to focus, like here's a question we can focus on that can lead to a flow state, which is beautiful. It's amazing. It's what Tony Robbins calls the beautiful state, which is what we're all talking about. You will find flow more often if you're living with your heart on fire.
Yep. I speak for hopefully all of us to say that we're glad you've taken a few showers lately. Just a few.
I actually overshower for sure. I shower at least 2 times a day, if not, and there's days that I will do 3. I shower right when I wake up. I have to. Yep. I get out of bed, and it's literally like I crawl out of bed. I sleep on the side of the bed with the bathroom door, and I literally open the door, turn on the shower, get in the shower. It's like I can't function without it.
I do too as well, but my first one in the morning is a cold shower and then a hot shower at night before bed.
I cold shower in the summer, and so this morning was my first one. So this is happy summer.
Happy summer, everybody. We're going to leave it there. That was our key distractions keeping you from living with your heart on fire: fear of uncertainty and risk aversion, self-doubt and limiting narratives, busyness, numbing, and comfort seeking.
You know, I just might let me just add one thing on that, Patrick. I'm sorry.
The closing credits were about to roll.
I feel like that. I just want to like double down on like the point of this conversation. Yeah, isn't to like shame people for anything, right? It's to wake up.
Yep.
It's to like kind of like wake up to this narrative. We all have it. We all have fear. We all have doubt. We all have distraction. We all
make decisions because of uncertainty.
For sure. Like, and because of I have self-limiting thoughts all the time, and I numb and I comfort seek and I pretend I fall victim to busyness and all of it. So it's not a matter of like, this is what you're doing wrong. It's to wake up. It's to remind you that the life you want isn't waiting for you at the end of perfect timing, right? It's there right now. We just have to go get it. Heart first.
Can we be done now?
There's 3 more things. Yes, we can be done.
Thank you very much for tuning into the show. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening or watching so you do not miss another episode. For more frameworks and daily practices, visit chasingexcellence.email. And don't forget to tap the link in the show notes for today's full listener guide, where we break down the key ideas and provide actionable steps to help you put them into practice. Until next time, keep building health, finding freedom, and living with your heart on fire.